After a one-month pit stop, our adventure continues with a sneak peek at galactic travel in the Hadean Galaxy. Are you ready, crew?
Traversing the vast Hadean Galaxy was no small feat. To navigate the almost 1,000 light-year diameter expanse, humanity had to develop ingenious methods of transportation. The first of these was reinventing wormhole technology, which they knew was possible having witnessed firsthand its use by the beings. Wormhole technology differed greatly from humanity's initial conceptual understanding. Instead of tearing a hole into space or ripping the space-time fabric, the technology acted more like an inverse camera or projector, casting a three-dimensional circle or sphere into reality, with half the sphere existing hundreds of light years away at the destination's end. The receiving side of the wormhole was jet black with a brilliant accretion disk at its rear, and much like a black hole, only allowed travel in one direction, earning them the name polarized wormholes. Light years away, the exit shone with a brilliance that rivaled the hearts of stars, as light passed through from the other side and was concentrated to a point. This side of the wormhole was like an entrance barred to all who approached. Ships didn't pass through these wormholes so much as they slid across their surface. There was a point known as the event horizon. From an outside perspective, when a ship approached a wormhole and reached this event horizon, the vessel transitioned into a two-dimensional object, compressing and plastering itself onto the surface of the wormhole. It appeared to slide and warp along the wormhole's curvature before disappearing at its horizon line. To the people aboard the ship, however, the experience was vastly different. From their perspective, the entire galaxy receded away, at first becoming nothing more than a pinprick of light before growing into a brilliant, warped, spherical globe. Upon reaching the horizon point, it felt as if the galaxy swallowed them back up, with stars, planets, and all matter rushing past to fill their view. Passengers experienced severe tunnel vision as they were technically moving faster than light, so only light directly ahead could be seen. Wormhole generators resembled projectors more than interstellar engines. They featured a projector lens shielded by an aperture, all housed in a heavy-duty adamanti-carbonium casing with several tubes, service lines, and wires connected to the back for power delivery, data transfer, and cooling. The aperture served a twofold purpose. 1. To protect the delicate lens, which housed an even smaller lens made of antimatter serving as its core, encased within a neutron field barrier. 2. To determine the size of the projected wormhole. The larger the wormhole, the bigger the object that could pass through it. The more power supplied, the further the wormhole could be projected into space. There was a delicate balance to be struck between the size of the wormhole, the distance to be traveled, and the duration the hole was held open. Theoretically, given sufficient power, there was no limit to how far the wormhole could be projected. However, during those early days of technology development and exploration, scientists made a chilling discovery. They encountered what would be called the veil, a mysterious barrier surrounding the entire galaxy, a wall of mystical energy that kept them hemmed inside. The Council knew this had to be the work of the beings and kept this information classified, which was relatively easy to do as wormhole generators required vast amounts of energy. Only a few ships could jump to the galaxy's edge, most of which were owned by the Defense Force. To illustrate the magnitude, wormhole drives consumed power at an astounding rate compared to other ship systems. One fusion canister had enough power to run a ship and all its systems for months, including engines, life support, and shields. However, a single wormhole jump would use an entire fusion canister in an instant. Therefore, most civilian-class vessels carried a limited number of fusion canisters dedicated to wormhole use, typically allowing for 1 to 5 jumps before needing to refuel. This limitation didn't apply to Galaxy-class vessels, which usually had onboard fusion generators capable of powering several planets. These ships could jump as much as they pleased, but they were still constrained by the risk of their wormhole generators overheating. To combat this, some Galaxy-class ships, mainly those of military grade, had several wormhole generators to make successive jumps. Nevertheless, even these ships were limited to a few jumps before they would have to wait for their wormhole generators to come back online. Starports and space hubs. For the vast majority of the galaxy's inhabitants, Galaxy-class ships were out of reach. To aid mass transit around the galaxy, a network of starports, also called spaceports, and space hubs, were scattered across key locations. All full member worlds of the Galactic Alliance and some member Union World 2, MU2, had at least one starport that acted as the main center of trade with the wider galaxy and served as the primary hub for all incoming and outgoing spacecraft, much like airports on a planetary surface. However, most developing worlds lacked this infrastructure as it was not economically feasible for them to attain it, while also paying back their massive terraforming loans to the Galactic Bank. These represented the pinnacle of human engineering feats. Held aloft in low planetary orbit by powerful anti-gravity units, and anchored to the surface by a network of extremely thick cables that also functioned as space elevators, they allowed for safe transit of people, cargo, and supplies between the planet and the port. Their sprawling docks could accommodate thousands of ships of all sizes and classes simultaneously, with dedicated areas for ship maintenance, refueling, recharging, passenger processing, cargo handling, customs, and more. The largest spaceports boasted small cities within them, complete with residential quarters, medical facilities, entertainment venues, and commercial districts to support their permanent staff and temporary visitors. While most planets only had a single main spaceport owned and operated by the Galactic Alliance, some wealthier worlds had multiple secondary spaceports run by private corporations. As critical pieces of infrastructure, spaceports fell under strict GA regulations regarding safety, security, and environmental protocols. In the rare event of a planet being expelled or put under a strict no-contact sanction by the GA, its spaceport would be shut down, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the galaxy. Space hubs were very similar to starports, containing most of the same services and amenities. However, space hubs were designed for deep space. These massive, self-contained space station ports varied wildly in scale, from humble way stations capable of handling a few dozen ships to monumental constructions like the Orvid Nexus that could dock tens of thousands of vessels simultaneously. No two hubs were exactly alike. Each one was effectively an independent outpost, with its own unique architecture, aesthetic, and local culture, influenced by the species and worlds that surrounded them. These space hubs were strategically positioned at key locations along major space lanes and trade routes, much like charging stations or truck stops along a highway. Both space hubs and starports contained stable wormhole transit nodes, or what were referred to as full transit wormholes. As these wormholes were bidirectional, light could go back and forth through them, giving them an almost invisible nature as they looked more like a distorted region of space or a snow globe effect. Anyone looking into them could clearly see the other side, though slightly skewed, as if peering through a glass ball. Unlike their polarized counterparts that had a probabilistic exit zone, these wormholes had fixed transit points as they had to be projected from both ends and ran in phase with each other. This was accomplished via quantum entanglement, allowing synchronized activation on both sides to open the channel simultaneously. However, unlike their polarized counterparts, these types of full transit wormholes required double the energy and could only be sustained at astronomical scale. Once these wormholes fell below 200 kilometers, or 124 miles, they became unstable and dangerous. Due to the size and power consumption of these wormholes, they were only ever opened when it became economically feasible to do so. For major trade lanes, this worked out to an average of about 4 times per year. For more off-the-beaten-path worlds, they could see a portal opening once every few years, if they were lucky. For those worlds, it was much better to charter a ship or go it on their own. These portals made up the main backbone of mass transit around the galaxy. Once they were opened, they could facilitate the bidirectional traffic of hundreds of millions of ships per hour. Both spaceports and space hubs were vital for facilitating interstellar travel, trade, and communication throughout the Hadean Galaxy. Communication. Wormholes also facilitated the transportation of information around the galaxy as they were the main form of mass media galactic communication, MMGC. During each interval when these massive wormholes were opened, messages and communications from around the galaxy were beamed through and picked up by antennas and satellites on the other end. These would then deliver the communication to its proper destination. For more remote destinations, the message would be transferred to a probe and sent out for delivery. While it could take months, sometimes years, for people to receive messages across the galaxy, priority messages sent by the government could circulate throughout the galaxy in a matter of weeks. However, few besides the Galactic Alliance, megacorporations, and select individuals could afford this service, as the cost to open wormholes across multiple starports and space hubs was astronomical. This was the most efficient way to transport large data packets across the galaxy. However, it was not very secure, as all the information was streaming into one big bucket and being distributed after. This was where the galaxy's secondary communication system came in, called the Quantum Network, QN. It made use of quantum entanglement technology, enabling instantaneous communication by linking quantum particles across vast distances. This technology provided unparalleled security, as the entangled particles transmitted information directly, making it immune to interception or hacking. Its primary advantage was the speed and security of data transfer. However, due to its high cost and low data transfer rates, it was used mainly for the critical background infrastructure underpinning most galactic agencies. Data transfers that only required a few megabytes included medical data transfer, rapid and secure transfer of critical medical information, such as patient records or diagnostic results, especially in emergencies, government and diplomatic channels, secure communications for government officials and diplomats to avoid interception and ensure confidentiality, high-level corporate communications for top-secret projects or mergers, ensuring sensitive information isn't leaked, intelligence agencies, sharing classified information quickly and securely among different branches or with allied organizations, GTF operations, secure real-time communication between units and command centers, especially important during sensitive operations, looking up and viewing suspects' records for criminal activity. But no other industry made more use of this form of communication than banking, the instantaneous, secure transfer of funds across the galaxy. This was one of the main pieces of infrastructure that underpinned the galactic market and the entire galactic economy. The quantum network's role in facilitating instantaneous and secure financial transactions across the galaxy laid the foundation for a complex and interconnected galactic economy. This system allowed for the rapid movement of capital, enabling trade and commerce on an unprecedented scale. This provides a glimpse of how information, goods, and people are transported around the galaxy. Even with all the technological advancements of humankind, nothing could replace the idea of jumping onto your ship and heading out into the void on your own. In that vein, these were the various ships used across the Hadean Galaxy. Ships were separated into 8 different grades based on their intended application. Defense grade. Ships designed for warfare, patrolling, or defense, equipped with weapons and armor. Within this class, there were further distinctions like battleships, destroyers, cruisers, and carriers. Rescue or medical grade. Ships outfitted for search and rescue missions or as traveling hospitals, equipped to provide medical aid, disaster relief, or emergency evacuations. Civilian grade. Ships that could be owned and operated by the general public, requiring only standard licenses certification. Production grade. Ships used commercially. This classification had further subsets such as mining or resource class. Ships specifically designed for extracting resources from asteroids, planets, or gas giants, equipped with mining drones, processing facilities, and storage for raw materials. Research or science grade. Dedicated research or science class vessels equipped for scientific experiments, deep space observations, and studying phenomena, often carrying specialized laboratories and instruments. Specialty class grade, a catch-all term for any ship that fell outside normal specifications of the other classes. It also contained the subclass designation, colony or settlement grade, vessels designed to transport settlers and equipment to new colonies on distant planets. They might include large habitats, agricultural modules, and other self-sustaining life support systems. Diplomatic or envoy grade, designed for ferrying diplomats or VIPs on official missions, these ships were built for safety and communication, possibly with amenities for hosting negotiations and meetings. Rating. These grades were then divided into 5 major ratings. They referred to the craft's wormhole drive or generator rating. Galaxy class. Ships possessed the greatest capability to jump to any point within the galaxy with an approximate 5% to 10% probability error or deviation, which converts to a 3-month to 24.5-hour light travel time. Quadrant class. Ships had an effective 250 light-year range with the same probability ratio, giving them the ability to jump anywhere within a quadrant relatively safely. Sector class. Ships were rated at 100 light-years. System class. A massive drop to 10 light-years, all possessing the same safety probability tolerances. Planetary class, designated for any ship that possessed no wormhole drive capability, which effectively limited them to only lightspeed potential. This restricted them to simple interplanetary travel. Classes. In addition to the range rating, ships were also given a secondary classification to help further differentiate them. These were broken into runner, ships intended for quick trips lasting only a few hours to a few days. They had limited storage and at most contained one small washroom, but no other amenities such as cabin sleeping quarters or a kitchen. Haulers. These could also fall into production grade depending on jurisdictional regulations and use case. They possessed the most storage space of all the classifications and are meant for cargo transportation. As such, they usually only had the bare-bone necessities for passengers and crew, but could support travel times of months to years. Explorer class, ships trying to be a jack of all trades. They were meant for long travel times and relative comfort, and also had an acceptable amount of storage space. Luxury class, vessels that were more statements of wealth and status, meant to take you on long travel times in full comfort and style. To facilitate quick identification and regulation of vessels throughout the Hadean Galaxy, a standardized coding system was implemented. This system, known as the Galactic Ship Identification Code, GSIC, provided a wealth of information about each vessel at a glance. The GSIC is an alphanumeric string typically consisting of 12 to 15 characters, divided into 5 distinct segments. 1. The grade prefix, 1 to 2 characters. 2. The range rating, 1 character. 3. The purpose classification, 1 character. 4. The numeric identifier, 6 to 8 digits. A unique number assigned to each ship upon registration. 5. The origin code, 3 characters, indicating the system or planet of the ship's initial registration. For example, a GSIC might look like this: CVQE78291045AGN. This string breaks down as follows: CV, civilian grade vessel. Q, quadrant class range capability. E, explorer purpose classification, 78291045, unique numeric identifier. AGN, registered on the planet Agnos. Additional notations for defense-grade ships, an extra character was added after the grade prefix to denote the specific type. B, battleship. D, destroyer. C, cruiser. A, carrier. For production-grade ships, a similar notation was used. M, mining or resource vessel. Thus, a defense-grade battleship might have a code starting with DBG, etc. This coding system allowed for instant recognition of a ship's capabilities, purpose, and origin. It was invaluable for spaceport traffic control, law enforcement, and regulatory bodies throughout the Hadean Galaxy. The GSIC was typically displayed prominently on both sides of a ship's hull, as well as on its bow and stern, ensuring visibility from all angles. Importantly, tampering with or falsifying a GSIC was considered a severe offense under Galactic Alliance law, often resulting in hefty fines, ship impoundment, or even imprisonment for repeat offenders. This strict enforcement maintained the integrity of the system and ensured the safety and security of galactic travel and commerce.
We hope this branch of the Hadean Galaxy's inner workings has been enlightening. In our next installment, we'll unveil the economy that keeps the Hadean Galaxy functioning and just who really runs it. Not even the darkness of space can hide these sinister underpinnings. Are you ready, crew?